Hey guys, welcome to the Scholar Online YouTube channel, the channel that is all about learning. I know it's been quite a while since my last video. Things are getting really hectic and it's getting harder and harder for me to create these videos on a consistent basis, but I did make a commitment that I will always provide quality content and stuff that you can use for all those aspiring coders looking to learn. You have come to the right place. All right, so today we're going to pick up where we left off last week. Remember, we were working on that Gemini model from Google, and I promised you that I will show you how to build your very own floating chatbot on a website. All right, so today we're going to continue with that, but before we get started, let us just get through the basics. Okay, so remember to like this video that you're watching. Remember to leave us a comment. Remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications. And if you go down to the video, in the description box, when you hear me say I will link it in the description, you'll find it. Just open it up. You'll find a few notes that I will write, some useful links, and maybe some timestamps depending on how long this video is going to be. And of course, if you want to get in touch with me, there will be my social handles and all those other things. All right, so let's get started with this video. So today we're going to build this floating chat box. Okay, so it's going to look like this. All right, so if you refresh it, for example, you're going to have that popping thing at the bottom of the website. And if you open it up, you will have a chatbot, and then you can say hello, and then the chatbot will respond. But this is exactly where we left it off last week. The chatbot doesn't have any AI connected to it. So when you say hello, it simply responds with the answer is yes. Whatever you say, it just says the answer is yes. So what we're going to do, we're going to link this to an AI model, so that when you say hello, whatever it is you're typing, it goes and fetches a response. And the model we're going to use is a Gemini from Google. Okay, so let's get started. This is not going to be a HTML CSS tutorial. Okay, so I'm not here to teach you how to build the HTML and CSS for this chatbot. For that, I'm going to allow you to go straight to GitHub and download this for yourself. All right, so I've got the link here at the top to remind myself, and I will paste this in the description of the video. Right, so all you need to do is to go to GitHub. All right, so I'm providing you the starter code, and then you'll be able to just build on from there what I'm doing. Okay, so if you go to GitHub, you will find this GitHub repo, and it's got 3 files in there. It's got a style.css, an index, and a script. Okay, so the script file includes the script that has to be written to run the chatbot, and the styling is the styling for the website and the chatbot itself. And then finally, the HTML puts it all together. All right, I've got all these files open. So these are all the 3 files that you need. Okay, so just go down there right now. If you're watching this video, it's really useful to follow along as I'm going, and don't wait to just copy the code at the end. All right, so what I would recommend that you do is pause this video right now, go to this GitHub link. It's going to be in the description of the video. Download these 3 files and put them in the same folder. So you want them sitting in the same folder at the root of the folder together, so that when they refer to each other, everything works well. Okay, once you do that, you can run your index.html, and if you run that, you'll have what I have right now. Okay, so you'll have this functionality where there is a bot that opens and closes. So this is managed by the JavaScript. There is a welcome message in there, and whatever you type, it just responds with the answer is yes. So right now you should have this kind of code ready to follow along with the rest of the tutorial. Okay, let's go through the code and see what's going on. All right, so if you look at it, and by the way, I must give credit, this is not my code. I just forgot the link where I linked it from, but I'll probably have it in the description of the video, so that you can just, I have to credit the person. I didn't write this code. JavaScript, CSS is not my strength. Like I said, I just wanted a working chatbot code, and then we can continue from there to build the AI part of it. Okay, so you can see at the top there, they're downloading some, some fonts. And this is the link that I'm showing you. So the body of the HTML has 2 things. It's this link, which is just for you to be able to find where the code is, and then it's got this button. This button over here is the button that you see at the bottom of the page. So there's nothing else on the HTML. And this button over there is it's got 2 things. It's for opening and closing, right? So when it sort of toggles between the open and the close position, right? And then once this button is open and closed, this chatbot then gets displayed, right? And this just chatbot is very, very simple. That's why I decided to use this code, because it's very, very straightforward, all right? It just has this welcome message. If you wanted to change this welcome message, you could change it here. So, hi there, how can I help you today? It's this message over there. You can put whatever message you want if you want to customize your bot for something else. And then it's got the send button with an ID of button that says send. This is the button at the bottom there. All right, so when you start typing there, the button appears only when you start typing. So you say hello, and then you'll see the button. That's the send button that you've got there. All right, and there's no spell check, and this is just a text area that allows you to write whatever it is you need to write over there that gets sent. Okay, and then once you press the send button, then the JavaScript kicks in, and all of this is managed through the JavaScript file. All right, so this is what the JavaScript looks like. I'm not going to go into the details of what the JavaScript looks like, because like I said, this is not a JavaScript tutorial. Okay, so if you want to get more understanding about how JavaScript works, you can go through the rest of the code later on. You can see but what is really important, and what I want you to focus on inside of the JavaScript code, is this part over here where the code that says generate response. Okay, inside of this function that's called generate response, you can see we build the chat element, and then we enter a text content in there that says the answer is yes. All right, so that is why every time we paste, whatever we paste, it just responds with the answer is yes, because we have physically hard coded it in here. So this is hint where we're going to write our AI function that calls Gemini API to get the actual answer to whatever the question that has been asked. So of course, we need to then find a way to get that question over there. And you can see the handle chat function is the one, it's the sort of the larger function that incorporates this generate response function. And this handle chat function, first of all, looks for the user message. The user message is what the user message would have typed in, and that's the chat input value. And if you look at the chat input is this query selector, this text area that I showed you earlier on. Okay, so it just basically takes the message that's in the text area, and if there's no message, it just returns, because we obviously don't want to send to the API a blank string, and it trims it nicely. So if somebody tried to just send like a tabs or empty spaces, this would return. Then it clears the chat input, so it turns the value to an empty string, and then it resets the height of the chat box, because obviously you don't want now to be typing over here and then your answer is not visible, right? So this is just all the things that manages the chatbot. And then you can see over here it's supposed to display a thinking message, so it's just a message that says thinking. You can edit this message to say anything you want, all right, but it's just to give the user that that sort of feedback that something is happening, because sometimes when you call the AI, it can take a few seconds, up to 20-40 seconds, depending on the model that you're using and how fast it is. We tested Gemini the last time. It had a decent speed, but it's something that takes time, and you have to manage that within the user interface to just show the user that something is happening. Otherwise, they'll keep pressing the button again and think that it's not working, things like that, So that's just sort of like, for the user experience, right? Then after that, it calls this high level the one that I started with. It calls this function. So as it displays the thinking, it calls this function. And right now, this function just responds with the answer is yes. So there's no waiting period. So this is on a high level what our code is doing. I'm not going to go into the rest of the thing. You can go through the rest of the code in your own time. But these are the two functions that are important right now. So you can see this handle chat. If you do a find for the handle chat, you can see it gets called over there, right, on key down, which means if somebody just presses the enter button, right, let me say I just press enter without actually pressing that on, the handle chat function will also be called, right? So that's what that one does. And at the same time, even if the button is clicked, it's called. So it's called twice, whether somebody presses the enter button or somebody clicks the send button, which is a great thing because some people, it's just normal behavior when you're on the chatbot. Sometimes you don't actually press the button, you just enter, because you just sort of assume that when you press the enter button, something will happen, right? So this is great code that actually handles for both scenarios. All right, so just keep that in mind when you're designing your chatbots, to just manage all of that. But like I said, I didn't want to focus on the HTML and CSS, hence I provided this code for you that you can use to get started. Right, so once you have this code and you want to get started, what we want to do is actually replace this handle chat functionality. So this handle chat functionality, we need to come in here, and this generate response the AI needs to come in here. The AI call, or the API to the AI model needs to come in here, and we need to find a way to get the answer in there and generate a response. So the model we're going to be working with is Gemini. All right, and you can do this with OpenAI. You can do this with any model. It'll work exactly the same. All right, we just specifically decided to use this because I thought, let me just demonstrate something with this. And this is something you can build on HTML and CSS, and you don't need a lot of those virtual servers that I would have been using if I was doing a Django project or something like that, right? You can see this is all running on the browser. So I'm actually just like copying and pasting this into the HTML. And if you can build an HTML file, you just need to copy and paste these in the HTML file, then you just save it and you run it. So all of this runs directly off your browser with JavaScript, so you don't need to install or import or do anything to your machine to get a lot of. So this is the easiest chatbot you're ever going to build with an API that doesn't require a whole lot of input, setting up and stuff like that. So if I was teaching somebody basic APIs, I would use something like this. All right, so let's get started. Then so if you look at this, I'll put this also in the documentation, right? The first thing you need is, obviously, you need an API key. I've already shown you how to get an API key the last time. All right, to get an API key, you need to just click this button over there, right? And if you click it, it will take you to a different page, which I think is this one over here, right? The AI Studio. You need to just create an account. So if you've been watching this video, you should have an API key already of the AI Studio. And if you don't have one, just check the video we did last week. We took you through that whole process. I don't want to waste time on that here today, okay? So you should have an API key, and I've just recreated a new API key for the sake of this tutorial. I'll delete it again at the end of the tutorial because I'm probably going to expose it and show you the API key as we get started. All right, so you need that, and once you have the API key, you can see on the HTML you need a script that imports the generative AI function, or from this URL. So you need to actually just copy. You can see these are two different scripts. All right, so you need to copy the script, import map, and you need to paste it. You need to just paste it. Where am I gonna put this thing? I'm going to put it in here. Okay, let me not put anything between the button and the chatbot. In the body, okay. We're gonna put it in here. I'm terrible with JavaScript, so I think the right place to put it is at the bottom of the body, so that it doesn't delay the rendering of the page or whatever, but you can figure that out later. I'm not overly worried about this at this stage because I'm just, so you need to enter the script, and then you need to then write this, copy the second script, right? And I think it's important to get the types right? So you can see over here that the first script is a import map type script, and the second one is a module type script, right? So, and then you sort of like, then you get your API key in there, you say Gen AI key, and then you do some stuff, and so this just shows you the structure. But if you scroll down on this page to generate text, you can see there's a fuller, function over there, which shows you how to import the generative AI thing. So you import this at the top, the Google generative AI from the top, and then you create a constant called Gen AI, which is, so I'm going to delete all of these, right? I'm going to delete all of that, and I'm going to try and replace that with this. Okay, so if I paste that in here, right, so I don't need to import this twice. All right, I don't need to import that twice. So what's happening here is you importing that at the top, and then you're entering your API key. So I do have the API key. Where do I have it? I have it in here. Okay, so I'm just going to copy the API key from there, and we're going to paste it in here and initiate the model, the Google Generative AI function with the API key. Right, then once we've done that, for text only, you can use a Gemini Pro model. So this async function sort of like calls a thing and then writes it, and then you give it a prompt, so you can change this, write a story about a magic backpack. Like, I should just leave it like that, and then you await a response. You await this, right, and then you console.log the text, right? So if you run this script right now, what it should do, and I would highly recommend that you actually do this, because we're going to develop this in stages. So we should be able to run this right now and see the console.log response, right? So let's do that. Let's save this index.html. So let's save it, and then let's restart this page. Let's restart this page. Right, and then let's look at the console, inspect, and look for the console. So I think maybe it's taking a while. There you go. So we asked it to write a story about a magic backpack, and it took a while, but it console.logged the answer. So this is what the model said, to get a response, to write a story about a magic, what is this? A magic backpack. Okay, so this code is just exactly as we copied it from the Google Quick Start. So their documentation is still decent at this stage. Google is great at writing documentation, but it's terrible at updating the documentation. So this is new docs, and they are perfect. But I tell you, a year from now, they'll be all wrong, because Google is terrible. If you try to follow some of their docs from previous APIs, they're like, impossible. But I love these ones. These ones are perfectly written because they're brand new, but they need to also put the same effort in updating documentation as they put in creating it. So this is great. So this works. So all we need to do is to now take all of what we've written here, all right, and incorporate it into the AI, into the chatbot itself. So our chatbot script over here that we have, where the handle chat happens, we just need to now rewrite it, and I've done that for you because I don't want to waste a whole lot of time here. So you can see how the code is structured, right? And I've written another a file called script1.js, where I've now incorporated it in there. I'll just take you through it very quickly. So at the top, we import the Google Generative AI, and then we initiate it there with our API key. All right, so you wouldn't do this on an actual HTML, because obviously you don't want to expose your API key to the HTML, because if I right click on a website and I go into view page source, I can see the actual HTML of the website. So if I'm going to write my API key in there like that, it means that whoever is doing the same thing, like if you're gonna then expose your website, anybody would be able to see your API key, and your API key needs to actually be private. You shouldn't share it with people. So what I'm doing here, in practice, you would never actually do, right? But I'm just showing it to you now because I want to show you how to do this. But later on, you would want to put this in something like an environment variable. You'd want to sort of, find a way to still access this key without actually displaying it in the HTML, because you don't want to do that. Right, that's a risk. I think I have to mention it if you're watching this tutorial, that you would not build this in production. But this is a HTML I'm running in my own private environment. As you can see, I'm running this on my desktop. So, and I'm just testing and I'm learning how to build the chatbot, and you can do that on your desktop very, very safely. But once you actually need to run this function, you wouldn't put your API key in the actual JavaScript code. Okay. So that's the key. And this is just what was there before. All right. And then I've now rewritten the run model. Okay. So the run model that was given here, this run model, I've just rewritten it to return the text as opposed to console.logging it. Okay, so this run model actually is just exactly the same as what's in here. So what it does is that it gets this Gen AI, which has been initiated at the top of my code, and then it gets the results and it returns the text. Okay, and it's an async function. So this function is exactly the same as what we have over there, right? But now we need to now call this run model inside of our handle chat. So our handle chat, first of all, calls the generate response, right? The generate response used to just have this element, right? And now we're gonna add the user message, because we need to send the user message to the AI, because the AI needs to know what the user actually asked. So we've edited this function a bit and added a second variable, which is a user message, which we are able to get from here. When this handle chat function is called, we go and look at the input and get that user message, right? This user message, we do display it back, I think. And then after that, we display that thinking div, and then we then call the generate responses on a timeout, right? And then we send the user message. So now this generate response function, which is at the top here, it's an async function. It also takes in the user message. It wasn't that before, so we had to actually build it like that, because now when we call our run model, that is async, which means it takes time and we have to await the response. This is the JavaScript stuff. So now it takes in the user message, and then we do a try catch, of course, because this can throw an error for whatever reason. Maybe your API key is wrong, the model is down, We just have to handle this for user experience purposes and for you to also know what's going on. So we try to run the model, which is this function there, and because it returns the text, we try to do that and get the text, right? And then if we get the text, we append it to the answer. This answer that we get from there, we append it to the element. So what we had before here was that element, we just appended the answer is yes, and you can see this function was not an async function. So we've updated it to be an async function, and to await a response. And then instead of it just saying the answer is yes, this answer will now be the answer from the run model. All right, so that's what we've done there. So we get that answer, and then we display it. If there's an error, we will console.log the error, but we'll also put in a text content that says something went wrong. So if you typed and you see something went wrong, you know there's a problem with running this run model, and you can go and troubleshoot this function separately, to see what's wrong with it. Okay, so this is the modification we had to do to move from what was there before to now running this with Gemini. Okay, so once we've done that, we can now do that. We can now test this. So what I need to do is, I tried running this before with a separate script file and it didn't work because of the import that needs to happen at the top over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this whole thing and I'm going to paste it inside of this script module, right? Because you need to have not have just the, because now this is integrated into the rest of what's going on here. So let me just add a tab there. Okay. So you need to sort of you have to integrate the whole API calling inside of the existing JavaScript, because now it happens within the chatbot code, and I've explained to you how we've done that integration, and then we've pasted that in there. So if everything works well, when I run this function now, it should not return the answer is yes. It should return whatever it is you're asking in a chatbot. But what we haven't done is added the actual chatting functionality, because this just calls the AI model for each and every single question, and it keeps no record of what it previously said and what you previously asked it and things like that. For that, you need to integrate the chatting functionality, and maybe we'll do that next week. I don't know if we'll have time to get through that today, but let's just test our chatbot, not chatbot, right? So if you now refresh this, right, if we refresh this, we can open up our chatbot. Something is not right. Let's inspect here and see. Oh yes, I know what's wrong. Okay, so we need to actually get rid of that. Because we're still calling the script at the top and we have it at the bottom here as well, so we don't need to import that anymore because we're running with this. Okay, so let's save that and close that, refresh that, refresh, and let's open up the chatbot. Yes, there we go. So let me say hello, just a greeting, right? It's doing that thinking, and hello there, how can I assist you today? What do you want to ask it? What is a honey badger? All right. It's thinking, that's what that thinking does, and then it's going to give you a response. Okay. All right. Quite a long one. Okay, so there's a lot you can do here. Usually these responses, you might need to format it a little bit, so you might want to add a formatting functionality over here on the response text, or you can put it actually over there after you've gotten the answer. So instead of just adding the text content over there, this answer you might wanna format it, because I think these models love to bring you to return a markdown type text, and you might want to just format markdown. All right, there's a nice library called marked that you can use for that. All right, and then the other thing you might want to do is maybe fine tune your instructions. I'm sure there's a way to do that, but the most important thing actually here, for it to be 100% chatbot, if you look at the documentation there and you scroll down a little bit, I think there is the chat part. Where is it? I don't know if it's, I've opened it on another window. Yeah, there it is, the chat session. All right, because this is how you're going to be able to make sure that it remembers what you asked it the last time. Right, so you're going to create a chat session and then append the messages here. I haven't tested this, but I'll put this in the link of the description. You can play around with this and figure out how to then update this into that format, because then that allows you to keep track of what is being said. All right, and with that, I'm going to end the tutorial, and I hope you enjoy your AI chatbot. And yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you guys next time.